Hi everyone, this is Karen Fomafung, your Agile Evangelist, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be addressing the most important Scrum events. So what is the most important Scrum events out of all the required Scrum events? So we will be talking about this topic today as a result of people reaching out, trying to get some clarification on what the most important Scrum event is. As you all may know, this is a very trending interview question. So most of the time, interviewers love this question. They always like to ask, Scrum Masters looking for a new opportunity, or even Agile coaches, what the most important Scrum event is. So that's going to be our topic for today. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand what the most important Scrum event is, how you should respond to this question if you've been asked during an interview, and moving forward, how you should base value on all the Scrum events. So that's going to be the outcome of this video. So right before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining the winning team. Just so you stay in sync with what we do here on weekly basis, please go ahead and turn on that subscription button. Turn on the notification bell so you will never miss out on any weekly upload. And if you are a returning viewer, a returning subscriber, a returning follower, you are always appreciated, and I love you. Thank you so much. Now let's get started. What exactly is the most important Scrum event? Before we start highlighting what the most important Scrum event is, I would like us to first of all touch on what we call required Scrum events in the Scrum framework. So according to the Scrum guide, we have 4 required Scrum events. We have the sprint planning, we have the daily stand-up, we have the sprint review, and then we have the sprint retrospective. We have other Scrum events though, which are not required according to Scrum, but they are as valuable, which a typical example of such event will be the backlog refinement. But take note, the Scrum guide doesn't add the backlog refinement as one of the required Scrum events. But based on my experience, this meeting is just as valuable as all the other meetings, especially sprint planning, because it's like a pre-planning meeting that you get everything ready and set up to finally conclude during your sprint planning. So that aside, that's going to be a topic for a whole other day. But for today, let's just focus on what the most important Scrum events is out of these 4 required Scrum events that I've just highlighted. Now, I need you to understand that before the founders of Scrum even design these Scrum events, is based on value. As you all know, in Scrum, we try to avoid doing or practicing anything that is not value adding. That's not adding value to what we are doing. That's not adding value to the customers, That's not adding value to our growth, As a team, we try to avoid things like that. So before they even decided to design these 4 events and term them required, it's because they've seen that there is a great value in these events, So if you ask me what the most important Scrum event is, to be honest with you, there is no perfect answer for this question. There is no perfect answer for this question, because what you consider as the most important Scrum event really depends on how you back that up, how you back your response up, So because like I said, to me, all the required Scrum events that have been highlighted in the Scrum guide are just as important. However, from a Scrum Master standpoint, I will consider the sprint retrospective, as my most important, and I will give you reasons for that. So I consider the sprint retrospective as my most important Scrum event from the Scrum Master standpoint. So the reason why I consider the sprint retrospective as my most important Scrum event is due to the vast opportunity that the sprint retrospective gives us to improve in terms of process, in terms of people, in terms of behavior, in terms of our environment, in terms of the product that we are working on. So as you may know, the sprint retrospective is designed to talk about how the sprint went, what we did well, what we can improve on, and what we want to stop doing from the product standpoint, from the people standpoint, from behavior standpoint, from Scrum values standpoint, from the process standpoint, so just think about it. This is a huge opportunity, to identify the gaps based on the outcome of these sprints, and then you come up with an action plan on how to improve and get better as a team. So that is why I consider the sprint retrospective as my most important Scrum event from the Scrum Master standpoint. And as a Scrum Master, your accountability is to ensure that Scrum is being practiced, and to ensure as well that the practice of Scrum is effective. You see, so I see this event as a perfect opportunity for me to ensure that we are improving, that we are continuously growing, and if you don't have any plan for growth, the growth will hardly happen. So the sprint retrospective gives us that opportunity to come together as a team and evaluate our sprint outcome and identify our gaps, and determine action plan on how to close that gap, which will end up give us the improvement that we are looking for. So that's why I consider the sprint retrospective as my most important Scrum event from the Scrum Master standpoint. Now, let us talk about, so if an interviewer asks me though, that's exactly what I would tell them, because they will not have all the time in the world to listen to you analyzing all the Scrum events. So from a Scrum Master standpoint, that's what I'm going to tell them, but first of all, let them understand that all the events are as important. But from a Scrum Master standpoint, that is why my most important is the sprint retrospective, and you state clear reasons why you think that the sprint retrospective is your most important. Now, let's leave the interviewers alone for our own understanding. Let's look at the sprint review. The sprint review is just as important, especially from the product standpoint, because looking at the pillars of Scrum, that is transparency, inspection, and adaptation, it is in the sprint review meeting that you really have this opportunity to express these Scrum pillars, because you as a team just being able to demo what you have worked on, which that will fall under transparency, that is showing everything you've been doing, or give account of everything you've been doing, or brag about everything you've been doing in these sprints to your stakeholders. It gives your stakeholders an opportunity as well to inspect the work that you have presented, or the work that you are showing, or the increment, or the potential, increment that you are showing. It gives your stakeholders an opportunity to inspect the work, which is the second Scrum pillar. Once they've inspected the work, they provide feedback for you as a team to adapt that feedback to the next sprint backlog, which this is the last Scrum pillar, that's adaptation. So you now use this feedback that has been provided to you by your stakeholders and adapt it to your upcoming product backlog, which gives you room to continue to deliver high quality value or increment to your customers, which is the only reason why you all are there, as an organization, why you all are there as a team, to satisfy your customer, to please your customer, to deliver to your customer the things that would give them value, that will be valuable to them. I'm talking about outcome here, not output. So you see, from a product standpoint, the sprint review is the most important. You see, from the product standpoint, the sprint review is the most important, again, because it's a perfect opportunity where you really, demonstrate or express the Scrum pillars. So that's why it's the most important. Now, let's look at the sprint planning. From a planning perspective, the sprint planning is also important. That's where everything starts, because if you as a team don't properly plan, it will reflect on your outcome. It will reflect on your sprint outcome, and it will in turn reflect to the value that you are delivering to your customers. So now you see how important planning is. Planning is also just as important, because you need to sit down and plan and evaluate your capacity evaluate the work that you've been asked to commit to, and self-organize as a team and figure out how to do that work. So in summary, in planning, you are determining the what you need to work on, you're determining the why you need to work on, which is the sprint's goal, and then you're determining the how you need to work on, which is the self-organizing as a team to deliver this increment at the end of the sprint. So if you don't conduct this sprint planning meeting, there's no way you can really figure out, how to even go about accomplishing that work as a team. So to me, that is why the sprint planning event is also very important. Now, let's look at the daily stand-up. The daily stand-up is also as important because it gives the team an opportunity to quickly connect and let communication flow. And as communication is flowing, it's an opportunity for the team to continue to increase transparency and visibility of the work that the team is, accomplishing on a short time period, that is within one day. Because again, as you know, the scope of the daily stand-up is to talk about your accomplishment of the previous day, what you plan to accomplish today, and if you have any impediment. So as well as it is increasing visibility and transparency into the work of the team, that is everyone in the team knows what everyone is doing. Everyone knows what's going on, there's nothing hidden at the background, no surprises, It also gives an opportunity for the team members to bring up any, impediments whatsoever, and they continuously quickly remove these impediments so that they don't become issues. So that is why the daily stand-up is just as important. So now you see why I stated earlier that there is no perfect answer to this question, because before the founders of Scrum even designed all these events, it's because they found value in these events. All the events, serves their own purpose, so they are all as important, but like I highlighted earlier, if you are supposed to answer this question during an interview, because you will not have the time in the world to really assess and show your interviewers the value or the purpose of all these events like that, as I have highlighted here, I suggest, you state to them that all these events are important, just like I've told you. But again, from a Scrum Master standpoint, the sprint retrospective is my most important Scrum event. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it answered your question. I hope it has clarified or removed your doubts. So please, if you think otherwise, or if you have any input, have anything to share, your thoughts are always very welcome. Your feedback is always very welcome. Please drop your comments in the comment section so we all can continue to learn and grow. As I always say, I am here to learn as well as I'm sharing this information with you to expand the Agile knowledge in the Agile space. Is the same way I am here to learn. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much for your support, as we'll be wrapping up right now, and hope to catch up with you next week. Bye.